Good evening, and welcome to the September 29th work session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining. Please join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I want to begin tonight by stating that we all here in Ossining owe a huge debt of gratitude to our school district, our high school principal, the faculty and staffs of Ossining High School and all of the other schools, to our Ossining Police Department and to OVAC for their handling of the extremely difficult situation at the high school last week. In the end, our children are safe, our teachers and staff are safe, and let me also thank the parents for their patience and understanding in this very trying moment. A good experience for the village coming out of what could have been a traumatic experience. A couple of things coming up on Sunday, October 5th. The Jug Tavern of Sparta will conduct its monthly walking tour of the historic Sparta district at the south end of Ossining. The tour will begin at the Jug Tavern at 1 o'clock. That's at Rockledge Avenue and Revolutionary Road behind CVS, with a showing of the video, The Battle for Sparta. And participants will then be asked to walk about 6 blocks through the neighborhood, learning about the historic homes and landmark district, and they'll wind up back at the Jug Tavern around 3 o'clock. The tour is free, but participation is limited to about 20 people, and they are getting 20 people very frequently on these things. For a reservation or further information, contact info@jugtavern.org. This is a more or less monthly trip around Sparta, but it doesn't happen during the winter. So the last one will be scheduled for November 9th. On Sunday, October 19th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., we invite everyone to our first annual Ossining Chalk It Up Festival. Everyone is welcome to showcase your art, your artistic talents, and enjoy a free day of music, dance, crafts, and food alongside amateur and professional artists. And we'll be seeing them paint Ossining's Main Street and Spring Street sidewalks. Not paint, chalk. So for more information, you could even apply tonight, but since this isn't live, it doesn't really matter, but you can apply at any point on http://www.villageofossining.org/documents/chalkitupfestival.pdf. This is the first event produced by the Village of Ossining's Downtown Events Committee. For more information, contact Ingrid Richards, the manager of Downtown and Economic Development, at iRichards@villageofossining.org, or visit www.villageofossining.org/economic development. Anyone else?
Yes. I'd like to remind everyone that this Saturday, October 4th at 10 a.m., you can join us at Market Square for our annual Fall Family Fun Day. In the past, I imagine it's going to be somewhat similar. There'll be pumpkins. We've done pumpkin paintings, lots of fun activities for kids and family. So join us at Market Square this Saturday, October 4th at 10 a.m. And of course, while you're there, you can visit Down to Earth Market's Farmers Market, which has lots of delicious and fun fall produce going on for you. And a couple weeks later, on Thursday, October 16th, will be our October screening for the Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series. This year's topic is related to cancer, which is obviously something that's so pervasive, I don't think any of us are untouched in one way or another. What the film asks is, it explores whether there are sometimes some questioning, commingling of marketing and philanthropy. And we all want to spend whatever resources we dedicate to finding a cure for cancer and supporting folks who are struggling with the effects of cancer. We want to spend our money very thoughtfully and carefully, and this is a way for us to make sure that we're doing that. In fact, one of our panelists will be from Charity Navigator, which is an organization that helps people understand how well a nonprofit organization, how they make use of the funds that you donate. So I hope you'll join us. It's at the Bedars Theater at the Ossining Public Library. Begins at 6:30 on Thursday, October 16th. And I will give my weekly reminder to please, if you are a homeowner in Ossining, for your sake, for the community, for the value of your home, you'll be more comfortable, you will save money, your home will be more valuable if you have an energy efficiency upgrade. It's not a glamorous thing to do, but it's also not an expensive thing to do. So please visit ossining.energizeny.org and find out how, for most of us, it doesn't cost any money to have a specially trained contractor come in and do a thorough analysis of the energy efficiency of your home and tell you what measures you could choose to take and what results you would get if you did decide to do them. And there are folks right here in the village. In fact, Ossining has, what was the last number? 79 homes in Ossining have been had energy efficiency upgrades in recent years. So please join those families and save some money. It's Energize Ossining. It's ossining.energizeny.org. Thank you.
And we should be proud that those 79 homes are a large portion of the 600 homes throughout Westchester that's happened to. So
Yes, we're one of the leading
we are.
municipalities.
Okay, anyone else?
Nope.
Let us go on.
Okay, thank you. We have a agenda with many different items on it, and this will be followed by a executive session for the purpose of personnel and alternately obtaining legal advice. So the first item on for discussion this evening is the proposed local law number 5, 2014. It's amending the village code to establish a landlord registry for rental properties containing 2 or more residential units. This local law was originally advertised for the last public meeting, formal legislative meeting of the village board, and that meeting and that public hearing was adjourned until this coming Wednesday. So for members of the public that are interested to come forward to the continued public hearing, that will be this Wednesday at the police headquarters on Spring Street, 7:30. So at this time, the board had an opportunity to receive some input from the public at the last meeting, and I'll turn it over to council for further discussion or any questions you may have.
Sure. We did take public comment, and also we entered some written comment into the record. In the meantime, other letters have been received, so we'll enter those when we reconvene the public hearing next Wednesday. But based upon some of the comments, we thought we would provide an opportunity this evening to see if the board had any specific recommendations as to revisions, and also just point out that we did upload the proposed, it's in draft, the proposed form itself, the registration form itself. So it may have answered some of the questions that were raised. Namely, you can see from the registration that there's no intent on the part of the village to register tenants or tenancies or anything. So it's just contact information for efficient use by the village staff and departments to obtain contact information and to be able to contact people who are close by in proximity and also close in relationship to the property owner themselves. So I don't know if you had some discussion or some further comments or had some suggestions. I know there was a question on the fee, which is completely amendable. And also there was some question as to whether you wanted to change the number of units, whether you wanted to exempt those larger multifamily commercial properties. There was also some discussion about the penalties, and also I think that there was some general misinterpretation as to the intent, so I leave it in your hands as to see whether you had some changes you'd like to propose. If such, then we can do those revisions and get them back to the website and out to the public, so you'll have them in front of you for next Wednesday's adjourned public hearing.
I think there were some misperceptions at the hearing. People were believed that all the information that we're asking for is already readily available to us, but that isn't the case. Even with the new reval going on, we do not know. The records are not that simple that we can compare day after day after day what is on the old cards, the old real estate cards with the new ones. Ultimately, it will all be online and it will be able to be done. What we don't have is records of who the owners are and who the management, sometimes even management of the building is. What we have is corporations within corporations within corporations. So to hold anyone responsible for what is going on in a situation where there are unsafe conditions or too many units that have been created is very difficult to do. And what we're trying to do here is to solve this is only the beginning of a legislative effort to solve the perceived overcrowding issue. And I use the word perceived because sometimes it looks like there's a lot of it when there actually could be a lot less of it than is apparent. So those records are not so readily available to us. And this is a way for us to see what is actually happening out there. I think it's important also to realize that several of the people who spoke were very concerned that that they were doing everything within the law, and why should they be penalized, and why should they have to do this? And that's in fact not the case. They're not being penalized if they're doing everything within the law. They're doing everything within the law. That's not an issue. That is not a problem. If they have a two-family house and they have two families in it, we're not talking about any problems. Why are we asking for a fee? Because there are administrative costs involved in this. But as Corporation Counsel said before, the fee is totally negotiable. It started in one of the communities at, I believe, higher than what we're asking for, and is now $10. But it is, there is still a fee involved. So, Manuel?
Victoria, you have any questions? That's fine. I have a bunch of stuff that I need to say, but
Well, go ahead, please.
part of the, pretty much the whole statement that the mayor just made is correct. One of the reasons why we want to do this is to have some sort of inside records within our office, within our own departments. I think that a lot of people were mentioned that yes, the assessor's office has that information, but just keep in mind the assessor's office is not within the village of Ossining. That belongs to the town of Ossining. So for us to have back and forth records, there's not a system that we can link in automatically to the assessor's office. There is information that they do share, that is correct. Going forward, the municipalities that we were talking about, like the Monquisco, because that's pretty much what we based on our previous conversations and conversations that I had with someone there last week. They pretty much said it's pretty easy. There's no really complaints. They really didn't have any big issues in our regards. A lot of people had actually, I spoke to a couple of people that there were suggestions where, you know, what happens, and I think that was cleared up last week, where it says, I own a building, 108 units, or 120 units, or 60 units. What happens then? Do we have to register all the apartments? And it's just a one-time application fee. One of the big issues that I actually I was working on it over the weekend is there was a complaint made in one of the houses here in the neighborhood where, digging a little bit deeper, the owner is not even in town. Is out of the country. So there's no way for us to contact the person. The person who's actually maintaining or doing some sort of maintenance in our property is their brother. So how do we find out? In this particular house, it has some sort of violations that we need to investigate. So how do we contact them if we don't have a way? Yes, the owner is an assessor's office information. That is there. But we don't know who's actually in charge of that property if we don't do something similar to what we're trying to do. I think this will definitely help a lot of the issues that we're having. And it's not going to be that hard. I think it's going to take like, 5 minutes to fill out that information. You have 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, that type of information. You just put your name on it. We're not doing any inspections unless there's an incident within our property. Then we can contact the owner, and then we go from there. I own a 2-family house. I'll be the first one doing this application if it goes forward. So I don't, if you have nothing to hide, why we have to worry about it? I'm doing it, my mom is doing it, well, my brother's not because he owns a single family house, but everybody else that I know, some other people have approached me and said that's a good idea. About the fee, we can definitely work it out. I don't think, $25 I think was a lot, but we can definitely come to an agreement that, could be something that we can work it out. You do have to understand, at some point we do have to pay our staff. It's a lot of additional extra work that we have to do. I think maybe, I know when Kisco says $10 now. I don't see why not using something like similar to that effect. Maybe even less. I'm sure we can find an intern at some point that can help us out, do some database information in there and get some credits for that person as well. So I don't know. I think we can. I don't know. I'm in favor of this. I was actually the person who actually brought this into the community because of all the concerns that I have heard before, and it's another one that hopefully will be coming forward as well. And it's another one that I'm actually looking into. This called an amnesty that Portchester has in regards to other issues that we may encounter as well going forward. So,
Thank you. Victoria?
I'm generally in favor of any efforts that we can make that are going to help us address overcrowded housing, because I do see it. I see it in my own neighborhood, and I know others see it as well. And that's the purpose of this. And what Trustee Quesada was just referring to is he brought forward a whole group of legislative efforts that exist throughout New York State and even other states in an effort to address housing problems of this sort. And we identified, with the help of council, 4 different ones that seemed like they might be applicable in the village. And this is the first one we've been moving forward with. I do, and in general, I am very much supportive of that effort, and I think it's something that is very challenging and difficult to deal with. It's a hard topic to talk about, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about it and address it. That said, there were some questions that were raised last week when we heard from members of the public, particularly folks who are going to be the ones directly asked to take part in the registration. And so I think there are still some questions to be answered, and perhaps some of what council had said would be provided to us would help address that. But I'm wondering if it doesn't make sense to, as much as we hate to slow things down, and we've been working on this for a long time, to create a subcommittee that involves 2 members of the board, the tax assessor. One of the points that was made is there's some information, because the tax assessor doesn't work for us, we do have an intermunicipal agreement with the tax assessor. If there's more information that could be gained from our relationship with the tax assessor, then is that something that needs to be addressed in the intermunicipal agreement? We didn't talk to, I don't recall having a conversation with code enforcement, and that's really at the crux of what is motivating us for doing this. And aside from the fact that 2 members of the board are themselves, in fact, property owners, and last week's public hearing, I don't believe that we had very much input from the property owners who would be asked to participate in the registry. So those are some of the stakeholders that come to mind that I think can be valuable in making sure that any legislation that we pass is going to achieve its intention, which its intention is to help us be sure that we're able to connect with somebody who can address any code violations, particularly with particular interest in overcrowded housing. Why the $25? That's obviously been something that's been brought up. And one other specific question was why only two-family and up? Why not? You could. I have a neighbor who owns a one-family home and rents out the one-family home. Why would we not include that if that could be rented out to tenants? So I think there are still some questions that can be addressed in a constructive way with a greater variety of input than we have heard so far.
Bob?
Yeah, I worked on this too, and I came to this because there's a building on Main Street, the old A.L. Myers building, which is now looking lovely. But when I came on the board, it looked like Who Did It and Ran, if you guys remember, and it took months and months of work by code enforcement to get through the layers and layers of corporate ownership to get to a person. Because in the tax assessor's office, it'll just say the first corporation. But there are a lot of property owners that make it very difficult to contact them. And this law will stop that. This law will make it so that the person, the actual human responsible for a property, can be immediately spoken to when there's an issue. That's what this does. And so that's why I'm in favor of it. I was surprised at the level of upset that the $25 fee created. We're property owners. I'm not wealthy by any stretch. I'm working 2 jobs. My wife's working 6 days a week, but I can afford $25 a year. That said, we have to respond to the people. I would have no problem with there being no fee, or even just a nominal fee. It seems to me that that was the thing that people were screaming loudest about, was the fee. If the trade-off was not having a fee in order to get this passed, that would be worth it to me. It's that important. We'll have to find the money somewhere else in the budget to pay for the admin cost. But there shouldn't be that much more, because it's a simple thing. Victoria brought up something really interesting, the comment that why not register single-family homes, because it's just as easy to take a single-family home and break it up into 47 little rooms and rent it out. And another comment that someone made was, why not commercial properties as well? And I'm thinking, why not register everything? You know, why not everybody fill out the form and have it? It's only going to be when you need to contact someone, you should be able to contact them. You know, how many forms do you fill out every day where they ask for an emergency phone number? You know I do them all the time, and I don't have a problem putting that there. I think that being able to immediately contact everyone in the village if there's an emergency need to is not an unreasonable thing. We don't want to add a burden. We don't want to increase people's costs, you know. But I have to tell you, that building on Main Street was falling down. And it was what the fire department calls a let burn, okay, which means that once the department determines that all of the people are out of it, they let it burn because it was too dangerous for firemen to go into. Now, if you remember, that building had buildings on both sides. If I owned one of those buildings and knew that the fire department would let the building burn next to me, maybe with a good chance of my building burning too, It would have upset me that it took so long to find the owners to get those problems addressed. I don't want to have that come up again. So that's why I think this is important. If the consensus of the board is that we need to research it some more, I'd rather not. I'm always in favor of action. But if we need to, then if that's what it takes to address all the concerns of the public, then I'm happy to serve on that and get it done as soon as we can. And that's only step one. As Victoria said, there's 4 pieces of this legislation, and by the time we're through, we're going to address this. We're going to keep the people safe, we're going to keep the first responders safe, and we're going to make sure that our poorest and neediest aren't taken advantage of by greedy people. That has to stop, and we're going to get that done.
Bob, if by commercial properties you mean co-ops and condos, I think that's something we have to talk about. But other commercial properties that are purely commercial have no residents, we hope, unless they're hotels, which we don't have. So
Yeah, that's what yeah.
I think for co-ops and condos is something that we have to look at as a possibility in terms of no fee at all. As I said before you came, and also you said earlier, there are administrative costs, and you can't just reach out and get some money from somewhere else because of the tax caps and freezes and diminution in future years. So I think that has to be taken into consideration very seriously. In terms of dealing with the assessor, I don't think we need to have a committee on which the assessor sits. We can deal with the assessor. We can go upstairs or ask him to come downstairs. I talk to him all the time. You talk
Yeah.
to him. We all talk to him. And he's very full of information and very easy to deal with. This is the very end of this part of the tax year, that so don't bother the assessor and don't bother the collector, the receiver of taxes until after that is finished, which is in a couple of days. So I think, but that is certainly there, and in terms of getting more input from the people out there who are, I hope, watching or who want to give any input. We have gotten letters, and we're keeping the hearing going until we are satisfied that we've heard from enough people, so that we have some critical mass of information to work on. But I don't think we need a committee, and I think we should proceed cautiously so that we get this right, but proceed.
I look forward to seeing the, I don't know if we have contact information for everyone who spoke at last week's meeting or everyone who has submitted. Because as helpful as it is to hear from people, it is also helpful to ask people questions and have follow-up and exchange ideas. And I think that's an important part of the process that hasn't happened with the property owners. And so if we're not going to form an official subcommittee, I would ask that anybody who is willing to have that conversation, and I know that there were particular individuals at last week's meeting. I don't have your contact information, but you have mine. It's garrity@villageofossining.org, or you can write to all of us at bot@villageofossining.org. I think it would be very helpful to the process to have some give and take, as much as it is helpful for us to hear in a public hearing. If I can't follow up with a question and really better understand more of the experience and the concerns and the suggestions of property owners, then I think we're missing an opportunity to make any legislation that we pass address the needs of the community as well as possible.
I agree.
If I may?
Yep.
I agree with Victoria and a lot of the points that she made. One of the things that I want to ask the board at this point is to us, and I know we're supposed to reopen the meeting on Wednesday for the hearing again. If with all due respect, we can hold that open until the following Wednesday. And the reason why is And I know we had a conversation with Rich early today. It actually seems Friday. So Friday, I'm supposed to be meeting with Valerie and Al. Valerie, let me know what time. I'm available Friday morning anytime, actually. So there's some issues that I wanted to talk to them. So I would like to address some of the stuff with them as well. So I think it's important to engage them at that point.
There's no reason not
So-
to hold it open
Yeah, I
for 2
agree.
more weeks,
So-
because following Wednesday will be a work session
Session.
again. So hold it open
Okay.
until the following.
So if we can do that, then
Yes.
again, if
But we'll still take comments this Wednesday.
of course, definitely, I think it's important. I think there's a law that is going to affect a lot of the residents here in the village. And I'll be talking to the folks on Portchester as well this week. Get some feedback from them. I will try to see if maybe one of the people from Monkisco, anyone from Monkisco is willing to come and talk to us. I'm going to try to see if that is possible as well. So see how the perspective, they've been doing this for years now, just to put some more clarity to what we are trying to do. And we go from there.
So at the next meeting, we'll have a public hearing, we'll continue the public hearing, and we'll
Yes.
continue it on the 15th as well.
Correct.
Right.
So we're going to keep this going a little while longer, so that we can hear from everybody. And, anybody who wants to. I spend a lot of time on the weekends meeting with people and visiting workplaces and talking to folks. You can get me at that email address. You could call me, 914-774-2646 is my cell phone. Call me. We'll set up a time. I'll come talk to anybody anytime about whatever you want to talk to about. We can't do this by ourselves. This is a part-time job, A lot of you folks are business owners. Imagine if you were running your business, working 1 day a week on your job. You probably wouldn't be very successful. So being a trustee it's not a full-time job. And essentially what it is it's gathering information from the people of the village and bringing that back, and then everybody else having done that, coming up with policy for the full-time staff to implement. So we can't do this by ourselves. We can't operate in a vacuum. We need your input. We really do. This is a partnership, and we need to be better at it. We need to be more available. And I like to think that this board has done a pretty good job of being available. And if anybody has any ideas on how we can communicate better, please bring them forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
I might suggest that at the public hearing next week, if we could encourage them to ask questions, and then we'll keep a list of those questions that maybe we can then seek answers to in the week between the public hearing and the work session, and we could reach out to the other communities. I did bring a sample of this to the roundtable last week with other corporations council, and the corporation council from Brewster was there. I don't think there was a Mount Kisco representative, but I would benefit from getting the concrete questions, and then we can best tailor this kind of work session to answering the questions that people have.
Okay.
And again, I would encourage everyone to really look at the form and see its simplicity in terms of it's really just gathering contact information. How do we best contact the person in order to get information about or to provide information to them? Say there is something there that a tenant is doing that the village is finding difficult to take. It's allowing us to contact the landlords from away and letting them know that there are concerns of the village and maybe they should address it directly with their tenants. So it's really just a facilitation tool for communication. And I can't stress that enough, that going upstairs to the assessor's office provides us with a corporate name, and then I then go to the Department of State Records and I look up who the designated agent for service of process, which is how we handled the 121 Main Street. The agent for service of process information was out of date.
Yes.
Every single attempt to serve the agent for service of process with the appropriate documents from the court was returned. I sent constable after service entity out to try to get service on this corporation, and it was a three-year process.
3 years.
And it was, it's
And that's only one building.
That's
similar,
one building.
but that similar
And it's
kind of
finally
thing
done.
often happens. So, you know, I also take an extra couple of steps. I try to find out who the water bill is going to. So I go to finance and try to get an address there. You know, I'll contact the tax receiver upstairs to see if she has some additional questions. And sometimes I speak to Fernando directly and say, I know this says it's Corporation ABC, but do you have someone that comes in who may be asking questions? So, you know, we try to do what we can, but for each individual property of 2 or more units in the village, that's an arduous task. That really it is.
This will make it easier.
I'm hoping it's
Can we
an
have
idea.
some hard copy, marked draft as yours is there, for distribution at the board meeting on Wednesday?
Of the local law? Okay.
And of
The
the
application.
Application?
application,
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
because it is very simple.
Just as a reminder, it is on the website in case anyone's at home and wants to be able to access it. It's on the scroll on the right-hand side, and I think it's in another place as well.
Yeah, it's also in the Corporation Council tab. If you go to the Corporation Council tab, all the proposed laws and proposed documents are in a list, a very comprehensive list, right on the page, if you click on the legal department. Yeah.
Could we send out in the web blast a call for comments with a link to
Yes,
the law and the and the form?
Sure.
You know, saying, please click on this, take a look, and contact us?
Certainly, you could do that.
Thank you.
You had something else?
Yeah, I just, it's absolutely, it makes perfect sense that we in the village need to have the ability to get in touch with a human being who owns the property. I think most of the people who came to us last week were themselves human beings who own properties. And so for them, they're the people who are abiding by the law. And they're the people we're going to be asking to go out and get a form notarized every year, even if it doesn't cost them anything for the form. And so we need to be sure that whatever we're putting into place is not creating more onerous a burden on the vast majority of community members who own property and are not corporations and are family members who live in our community, and they own property so that they can afford to live in their other property. And are we passing a law that is going to achieve our goal of getting this information from the corporations? Is it going to be something that we're able to enforce? Is it going to achieve our goal? And if it's not going to be super successful in that way, does the onus that we put on the majority of property owners who are law-abiding citizens more onerous than the value of the law? So I guess I'm not totally clear on that yet, so I need some clarity on that.
Could everybody turn off their phones, please, or at least put it on buzz or silent? Thank you. Anyone else?
You know, one of the items that is an application form is an email address or a website. One of the biggest complaints that we've been getting, or that we had, I remember when the water break came in and it said, "How come I wasn't told? How come I didn't know? Or why is it this and why is it that?" So if we have some sort of an email address and that affected area that I believe we are working on and try to better communicate our issues, that could be a way for us to have some sort of a link to where do we contact or how do we contact in a case of emergency, or try to do something. Again, this is more for when stuff happens to the property, when something is a crazy stuff that happens, is a water break, is something illegal is going on in your property, and your neighbors are complaining. We have a way to reach out to who's in charge of that property. It's nothing else, nothing more. I think that's something that we have created. Definitely, if we have to hold off for another month or so, I'm okay with that. We've been working on this for what, Laura Lee, we've been working on for 4 months, 5 months at least. So another month, it's not gonna bother us that much. As long as we have that communication back and forth, and again, just like Bob said, and I'm sure a lot of us, I was working this weekend. I was working the streets. I was emails. I actually had 2 phone calls before I came to the meeting. No regards to this, but in regards to all the issues that's going around the village. So we do listen to people. People do call us with different issues that they have, and we try to address it as best we can, and as fast as we can as well. So to me, this is another form of communication between us and the residents of the village of Ossining.
Okay, we shall move on. I think we've done enough on this one.
Okay, thank you. The next item is an update, further discussion on local law. Number 4, it's 2014, it's zoning amendments, and it primarily deals with the elimination of the requirement of 3-bedroom units in,
Which is not the elimination of 3-bedroom units. It's
Requirement.
just a requirement.
right, I haven't actually finished, but yes, Council.
Yes. Okay, so you did close the public hearing on this, having received no comments, either positive or negative. So it is incumbent upon you to deliberate in some fashion and to choose to take action or not to take action, depending on how you're feeling about the elimination of the mandatory 3-bedroom count in the various zoning districts.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, one of the issues that comes up all the time is schools. By eliminating the 3-bedroom requirement and encouraging developers to make less 3- and 2-bedroom apartments and more 1-bedroom and studios, it helps address the growth in the schools. So I'm for passing anything that supports that. So I'm good.
I think I've had several conversations this week about this piece, and all of the responses have been positive because of what Bob is talking about, except one person who didn't believe that this would help, that they would just put more children in one room. But I think ultimately it will help. I think the announcement that we're sending out there is that we want families to move here, that there are plenty of 3-bedroom units existing, and that developers can continue to build them, but we as a village are no longer requiring them to be built.
Yeah, I would just say it's not a matter of encouraging or discouraging a particular size unit. It's just allowing the developer and the market to determine what makes sense at the time that the development is going up and whoever their market is that they're targeting, and we're not requiring that they provide X number of units that provide 3 bedrooms. And I can see why it's not controversial. It makes perfect sense to me. I fully support it.
As I said last week, when this was passed, we were encouraging 3-bedroom units and encouraging larger families to move into the village. Yeah, I think we'll call for a resolution for next week.
Manny?
Yeah, it's just I think we should pass something along where we encourage more studio apartments and maybe one bedroom. So that's just maybe the next level. But yes, I'm in favor.
Good.
Okay. All right.
So,
Onward.
pushing ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, the village has a major sewer project going on in the Kilbrook, which if you look down from any of the overlooks to the Kilbrook, you can see it's been going on. It actually is a DEC mandated project. The state required some work to be done at that place. So the village is going to complete that work within the mandated DEC and agreed upon stipulations, so we'll be in compliance with the DEC requirements. Because the project's been a very significant one, and because there's been several requested changes of funding and different options that have been, and opportunities that have come up, and also obligations, I asked the village engineer, Paul Frioli, to come in this evening and update us in terms of where we are on that project, in terms of expenditures, expected completion time, and also any potential changes in the future. Thank you. Paul?
Thank you, Richard. Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Evening.
Last time I was here, you granted the approval to go forth with the resolution for the transfer of $700,000 into the project. We knew from the onset that this money, which included soft costs and ancillary costs and some unforeseen contingency costs, would always be incorporated at a later date following the original funding of the project, which was for the exact bid amount. So when I did present that evening, you approved the $700,000. What we did not go forth with that evening was the add alternate, which was another component of the project, so that funding was not put into the capital project. The project budget balance to date, and I just printed this out from KBS this afternoon, so it's actually through this week. It includes the expenditures to date for bricks and mortar, if you will, and soft costs associated with the project. There's an authorized spending for the project in the capital line, $5,008,000. We've encumbered, which means there's expected work, POs generated for work inclusive of $4.652 million, and there's an unencumbered amount of $355,592 left in the project. When I say unencumbered, that doesn't mean that we're not going to spend it. We're going to say that it's not unencumbered so far. We still have the balance of this year and possibly a little bit into 2015 to do a 100% completion of the project. The completion of the DEC consent order component is still expected to be completed next week, well in advance of the October 31st deadline.
Good.
Cool.
So, and on a side note, Lori Lee and I and our consultant have maintained contact with DEC Council and DEC's regional regulatory engineers on this project, keeping them abreast of the status as was part of the consent order. We've solicited ongoing visits, none of which they've taken us up on, but I believe they are going to take us up on a visit to see the completed consent order work. We haven't yet to hear back from them. They did say, yes, we'd like to do it, but that was about as far as we got, and we don't have a date yet. I'm thinking it's going to be I'm hoping it's going to be sometime within the next couple of weeks. Short of that, we will end up doing what the village needs to do as far as sending them some type of professional certification that the work that was required in the consent order was in fact met, and we will send that with all the appropriate legal attachments and coverages that we need, so we don't jeopardize the village in any legal capacity. Hopefully I said that right, Lori Lee. Jump right in if
I see, Paul, that there is some construction at the entrance staircase, ramp, whatever that is. Right now, there is construction up there. What's
Well,
going on?
there's been a couple of developments since the last time we spoke and asked for the transfer, the additional funding. One of the developments was we've actually procured, Valerie just received it in the email late last week, was the CDBG contract for the sun deck.
Yes.
You know, we did have some verbal commitments by the county, so we actually started that work in advance of the contract, which was allowed by the county, and the office, the planning office there, is versed on what we're doing, and we're doing all the necessary field documentation to receive those monies when they come in. But that was a project that's really kind of like a sub-project. It became like a sub-project to this project. It was issued as a change order to the Kilbrook Sewer contractor. But we created a separate project in KVS, and we're treating it like a sub-project to this one with the same engineer, the same contractor, and we're actually have incorporated the sun deck to have a wraparound path and be contiguous with the Kilbrook path.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That is that's ongoing, and probably by the end of next month should be completed as well.
Good.
The second project is maybe not as feel-good of a presentation. As you know, when we got into the Kilbrook and started working on the north end, if you will, by the Broadway, by the double arches, we've noticed significant deterioration in the Broadway Bridge. We retained an engineer. I think I was in here about a month ago, with cells, WSP cells. They have done some preliminary testing on the bridge. We dug some test pits for their structural engineers. They did some inspection on the underside, and I expect an design recommendation report, which is more likely than not going to include a rehabilitation of that bridge. A significant rehabilitation of that bridge's decking, parapet walls, and top surface, road surface. I'll have some expenses for that and potential capital project recommendations soon. I'll have those into the manager's office, and they'll be brought forth to you guys when appropriate. The way we're proceeding right now is we're funding that engineer, in that bridge and the access to the Kilbrook is really part and parcel with this project. So we're funding the consultant engineer that's doing that investigation from the contingency money that you already gave us a couple of months back. So we haven't asked for additional funding yet. However, I do not believe that the remaining contingency will still be available to fund the rehabilitation of that bridge, because we still have a ways to go in the Kilbrook. So that's the status of the project. It is on schedule, presently on budget, and the two sub-projects, one is going nicely, the other one is TBD.
So, Paul, if you could you just itemize the three change orders that were sort of substance, just so the board's up to date? Two were add-ons, one was
Sure.
a deduct. Thank you.
Sure. Everything, because of the nature of it not being in the original contract, was written as a change order. So there's the three change orders that the manager referenced are the three sizable change orders. There's actually 11 change orders to date on the project, because every month he hands in the testing and inspection bills, which we pay via change order because it's not in his contract, although he is administrating that work. But there was a deduct change order, a credit, if you will, to us for the bridge work that we deleted. What we anticipated for the Broadway Bridge is not what we're going to end up doing because of the severity of the damage there. So he issued, his original contract value was negotiated to be $149,500, so that came out of the PO. The additional change orders was a $158,400 change order, which came to light after we were subject to some hand railing details that needed to be incorporated into this path that was after the bid. And the other change order of $103,000 is for the southern portion where the path interfaces with Central Avenue. Was a raised portion where the design only had a concrete slab, but in the field the structural engineers deemed it better to encase it. Again, that was after the bid. This way the sewer is entirely encased in concrete. Although that was the entire line was slip lined, this actually will give a nice contiguous look. And I think when we walked it most recently and we went over the details where they stand to date, it just seemed like the right change order to do, and it was within the contingency limits, obviously.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report.
Could-
Appreciate it.
Could I just interrupt for a moment? I'm sorry, Mr. Manager.
Yeah.
I noticed there's some faces in the crowd, and I'm wondering if they're here for the processions. Originally, we didn't think anybody was going to be representing them. I don't know if we could take that item out of order. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So, jumping ahead, we had a couple of applications for processions. The first one was Our Lady of Fatima. Christina, you want to speak to that? If there's anybody
Sure. So we
here?
have, on tonight's agenda, we have application for 2 processions, and I do see some new faces in the crowd, so I wasn't sure if anyone was here to talk about there's 2, one for the Portuguese Club and also the Lord of Miracles Brotherhood. Both of these applications have been, or these processions rather, have been approved by the police department.
Good.
Both of these events have been run successfully and for many years, so we're hoping the board will approve them. Aldo, I'm going to say his name wrong, Abanto, was representing these, and he is very good at coordinating these events, but was unable to be here as he's expecting a baby momentarily. So he was a place where he can't be
Is it different than
can't
last
be
year?
replaced.
Is there anything
the
different?
baby or
No, the baby will be unique, but the procession, is there anything different than what we approved last time?
I believe it's the same.
Okay. Yeah.
Certainly Fatima is exactly the same.
So I think,
We haven't, anybody have a problem with that?
no.
This is fine with me.
you
All
know.
right, great. So
Thank
I'm sorry to keep them here. I thought originally that I was going to just present it on behalf of Aldo, but if there is anyone here, we just want to let you know it has been approved, and don't want to keep them
We
out
don't
any
need to.
later than we need to.
It's already been approved.
What about the other one?
So
Lord of-
they're our Lord, both Lord of Miracles and Brotherhood, both of them kind of the same status. They've both been done for many years. They're well run. They coordinate volunteers. They coordinate with the police department, and the police has no objection to these.
I'm good.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Muito obrigado.
I apologize.
All right, so that's just done.
Okay, great. So moving backwards a little bit, several of us had an opportunity to attend a presentation on behalf of Solarize Westchester at Pace University. This is a program that is being run in conjunction with Westchester County, and they brought in some outside consultants in order to streamline the possibility of solarizing your house and business. And there's an opportunity for the Village of Ossining to get engaged in a very meaningful way. So I've had a chance to talk to Valerie about it, and she's come in this evening to speak to it.
Good evening. I did speak to the board a couple weeks ago about applying to be one of the Solarize Westchester communities. I started reviewing the application process, and I did speak to Richard the other night. I wanted to sort of give a summary of the application or what the project would be, and then to talk about some of the issues of concern that I raised with Richard. First of all, the concept would be that the Solarize Westchester campaign team will assist local communities in selecting a solar photovoltaic installer through a competitive process to make residential and commercial solar energy more accessible and affordable for residents and businesses. So the concept will be that each installer will, with support from Solarize Westchester, will develop and implement an 18-week campaign outreach approximately between January and May 2015, with the goal of trying to each community to have sign up for about 50 new solar installations. And this would this project sort of requires three different components. The first is being a project lead. Second is developing a core team of 3 to 6 Solarize volunteers, and that team can include community elected officials or staff. And then the third component is also the installer selection committee, which is responsible for dealing with the bids, reviewing the bids, and then selecting the installers. So there's actually, the application process actually requires the village to identify who the project lead is, to also identify who, more or less, the core team of the 3 to 6 Solarize volunteers, and then to also speak on, just in general, how they're going to be dealing with the installer selection, as well as the request for proposal that would go out to the various installers. I expressed concern to Richard is that while the planning department can help with dealing with phone calls and questions about the resources, it can also deal with communications and overall, I guess basically dealing with the day-to-day operations of how this program would sort of unfold. There is a necessary element that deals with community outreach, organization, events that my department is not going to be able to deal with. And so one of the concerns that I had was that we really do need to identify who are going to be more or less worker bees on this core team in order for this project to be able to really move forward and for us to really submit an application that's viable in when being reviewed by the Solarize Westchester team.
Yeah, just to augment what Valerie's saying, in addition to the the limited resources that we have, one of the things they stressed that day, as you'll remember, is they really want to see volunteers. They really want to see that the community is committed to this. So we started discussions in terms of, identifying who those people might be. But these are actually the people that are going to go out and make sure that these events are properly advertised. They're going to have to do things like go down to, events that are being held and have a very presence there in order to get the community involved. They're very invested in making sure there's volunteers. So.
What about the Chamber of Commerce? This sounds like something that's going to generate business, and maybe the Chamber can take this on as a project.
The thing is, I can't speak for the chamber, and certainly we can reach out to any number of people, but what you really need is this is not just a situation where someone just volunteers. They're going to have to actually take the nuts and bolts. I mean, we've talked internally about some participation, from our side, but we really there are people that really work, and the chamber certainly has people that are able to do that, but it's a significant commitment to really make yourself available and run these events, so.
It sounds very similar to the Energize launch, which that was their model, was you needed community volunteers who know the community and who are willing to dedicate a lot of time as volunteers. And the people who were the liaisons are part of Green Ossining. And I know you reached out to the Village EAC, which also has folks who have volunteered and have to help serve the village and have an interest in environmental issues. So there might be members of the EAC who would be interested in being part of that. The thing about Green Ossining is it's not officially appointed volunteers, but it's very engaged community members. They may live in the village of Ossining, they may live in the village of Briarcliff, they may live in the unincorporated part of the town of Ossining. The general mission of Green Ossining is outreach and education and promotion of sustainable living and practices. So it just so happens that we have a Green Ossining meeting tomorrow, so maybe you and I could talk, and if there's an opportunity to see if people from Green Ossining want to be part of that. That's definitely a group. That's the people who organize the very successful Earth Day Festival every year, and were the ones instrumental that I was also part of with the Energize launch 2 years ago, or no, almost 3 years ago. That would be the logical, to me, organizers if we're going to do community outreach. The other pool of people that we might be able to draw in, and this was something that was mentioned that day, is, I think you said we've had 32 solar permits in recent years, and they said, like half of the people who have solar installed in their house are so excited about it that they're willing to be volunteers. So that might be another resource of potential people who would be willing to participate either in a specific role of, I don't know exactly what the outreach would be. Sometimes with Energize, we held demonstrations, and people invited in their neighbors, and that was one of the ways they did community outreach, was to demonstrate I'm having this process done to my home. So people who have done solar I'm happy to show people this is our solar installation, this is our little meter, it's clicking back, I don't pay for electricity anymore, the sun takes care of that for me. That I think if community outreach is our biggest stumbling block, we still have some resources we might be able to tap into.
So can I put you down as
Yeah, you can put me down as part of that core volunteer team, yes.
I agree. That's exactly the people we should be talking to. I am concerned, however, that there needs to be some, yes, I'm sorry. I agree with Victoria. Those are the very people that we should be talking to, but I am very concerned that there be some strong coordination from within the village government. And I know that that's a problem for you because you have only you, and but we need to have somebody who can be responsible to make sure that the volunteers, who after all have their own lives as well as doing this, will be coordinated.
Right, and I think that was the concern that I had, that I expressed to Richard, that I can't take that role on, because my plate is already full, and I'm already dealing with a couple other projects that outside of the normal day-to-day operations. So yes, I could help coordinate, I can clearly send out emails, I can, deal with paperwork and documentation, but to actually organize events and organize meetings and everything like that would have to be done by.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there, but I think the important thing is that somebody is sending out those emails and sending out the PR, making sure the PR, which can be written by the volunteers, making sure it gets into the right channels at the right time.
Well, sure, it can get, yes, I can easily help with posting stuff on the internet and sending out web
Yeah.
blasts, but, you know, for example, letters to editors or actual doing
No,
copies
it can
and
be the
mass
volunteers.
mailings
Yeah.
would not be possible.
The other concern I have is that a large portion of this is municipal. That is, I know that Leo in Croton is talking about the parking lots covered with sheds of solar panels.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I think what is important is that we, in this process, are looking not just at private homes and private industry and private commercial spaces, but that we're looking at municipal spaces
Right,
as
no,
well.
overall, I mean, we are gonna be working on an overall solar plan for the village of Ossining and moving forward with looking at like legislation and stuff like that and tweaks. But this particular grant, or it's not even really a grant, but this particular program is that the village will identify a private installer who then is going to advertise, and the more people that more properties he can sign up, or he or she can sign up, therefore their costs go down, because it's
Right,
like a,
right.
you know, a group.
Right, but I'm glad that you said just now that we are going to be doing a
Right,
program
right,
for
you
the
know, I did
village,
present-
because
right,
that was
I-
left out of the earlier part of this,
Right,
and
but
that's
no, well,
important.
that was, last time I was here, I presented those other components, but this one in particular, you know, I had concerns with, because the application requires us to identify who our core team is going to be, and, you know, what types of representatives. And as, you know, Richard and I spoke about Green Ossining, because we did think that they are a group of doers. The only thing with that is that they do represent the village of Ossining and the town of Ossining, and the way this application works is you can have a coalition between the town and Briarcliff, but then they do want people, representatives from both those municipalities, and then to also participate on even footing with the others. So
Do you
all this,
know whether the other two municipalities are
talked to
planning
either.
on doing this? Because it may be that they are, and we can more easily coordinate the effort.
I don't think that any of them were represented that day, but I could be wrong. They could have been there in the afternoon. But, yeah, we thought of that. We thought of, that's a possibility, because the town, like Green Ossining, it's
Can you
all.
reach out to the town
and,
and the village of Briarcliff?
Sure.
Thanks.
The thing is, maybe if you go tomorrow, you'll have a better sense. I can certainly talk to Briarcliff and Sue, of course.
That'd
Okay.
be great.
And I think that would actually, if we did a coalition of the three municipalities, that coupled with having strong community outreach volunteers would make us an incredibly strong application. They love the more municipalities, the more people that can be tapped into.
Right, so I'm sorry, we thought to that, and also because of Green Ossining, and also each municipality has to make their own application, though.
that's
It's not a
correct.
joint, so
Right.
they have to commit individually, so.
Okay, good.
Oh,
Yep,
so it specifically says on here that you can identify to become a coalition.
You were
It
out of the room,
says
so we volunteered you.
Hold on. That for a coalition, you can, it's no more than 3 municipalities may join a single solarized campaign. Each municipality will be responsible for an individual application and must clearly state which other municipalities will be part of the coalition.
okay.
And there's
We just
there's a specific letter that needs to come from each high-ranking municipal leader from each municipality. I mean, even if you do it as an individual municipality or coalition, and then in there, they have to identify the primary project contact, and the individuals and organizations that will be part of the project, as well as any other municipalities. So all of this needs to be coordinated very quickly, because it's due October 16th.
Oh, my.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So then we're talking to the planner, the building department, and the executive of whichever of those, whether it's the
Yeah,
supervisor, or the
but
manager, or
The
the
town
village
doesn't
and
have a
village and
planner.
town don't. Village of Briarcliff and town of Ossining don't have planners.
Oh, well, that's
So,
one less person,
I don't
two
know
less people
who.
to talk
I don't
to.
even know who you would. I mean, I think Richard would probably be best to start off with the supervisors, right?
Right.
The supervisor, and you're going to be talking to the Green Ossining people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, so by the end of the week, hopefully, we have a direction.
Cool.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Thank you, that sounds
Thank
great.
you, Valerie.
Thank you.
You know, even
Next.
if we are the only municipality of the three to do this, there may be enough, and I don't know the answer to this, but there may be enough volunteers in Green Ossining to make up the core of.
The very best one happens to live in Briarcliff.
She can move, or he.
She might.
In this particular case, they've got very well-defined roles, and they have very well-defined numbers. So it's not the numbers, it's the enthusiasm.
Good.
So it's a core, it literally is a core group.
Right.
So we've started on it, now we need your help
Yeah.
to round it out.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Valerie.
good.
Thank you,
Thank
Richard.
Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Valerie. Following this meeting, we're going to have a short special meeting to deal with some resolutions on auction parcels that have to be disposed of, and then also to deal with a Section 8 plan for 5 years. So, Tom, you want to come forward and just speak to this issue of the auction parcels?
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees.
Evening.
Howdy.
Did you know, back on early August, the town had actually held a public auction of some parcels in the town outside area, as well as 94 State Street and also the 2 Priestley Street parcels, all of which were sold.
Yay.
And the terms of the contract were that the supposed to be closings by the end of September. And at the town board meeting last week, the town board did accept the high sales bids for 94 State Street and the 2 Priestley Street parcels. On that 94 State Street parcel, the base tax liens are about $46,700, and then there's about $11,300 in accrued interest, and also the village had incurred expenses of about $2,900 to board up the building following the fire, and the total auction proceeds were $49,000. So we're working with the town to allocate that $49,000 based on liens owned by both municipalities, as well as we'd like the boarding up costs taken off the top. But overall, there's not enough money to pay for everything. And so in the past, we've always had some type of agreement with the town to allocate the expenses based on a percentage of investment by both local governments. So that's what the resolution is for. And then on the Priestley Street parcels, the tax liens totaled $18,245, and there's about $4,900 in accrued penalties, and the auction proceeds was $12,000. So again, there's got to be an allocation of the proceeds based on the amount of tax liens held by both. And so this resolution, aside from calling for the allocation of the proceeds, would allow me to extinguish the tax liens, since number one, the tax liens, the period for redemption has expired, and also because the town actually foreclosed and took it to auction, I need authorization to accept less than the full amount that's due on these parcels.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Tom?
Thank you, Tom.
So are we working on that tonight? We're going to do this, this is what you're talking about?
This is Section 8 now, right?
Okay, the next one, you'll recall that Marilyn came in to discuss the adoption of the 5-year plan. It's a requirement of HUD with respect to our Section 8 program, so Christina.
Yes, we've added this also to the special meeting at the end of this meeting. We've received no additional comments, so we'd like to pass resolution adopting the 5-year plan.
Yes, please.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Let's do that.
Okay, the next item is
Capital project.
just sort of an update on the capital projects. Some of them we've talked about a little bit about this evening. However, I just want to touch on the few that have had any changes. I think you have a copy circulated, so if you want to look it over, and then if you have any questions, please get in touch with me. The items that are sort of in flux and that are experiencing some change is the generator at the Rodriguez Operations Center. That project is currently underway, and they're going through to finalize access agreements in order to proceed with that installation. You authorized the police department to purchase certain vehicles. 3 were ordered in February, and 1 has just now been delivered. I'm happy to say, and Paul's not here, but I congratulate him on a really nice piece of work on Pleasantville Road. That was a very difficult project and a very extensive project. That has now been substantially completed. There's some little items to finish up, but that is, for all intents and purposes, complete. The village...
That's the very first time I have ever seen that road as smooth and clean,
It's very nice.
delightful.
Yes.
That's huge, and I apologize to the public for about the last year. We had it on our radar, but because of all the work being done at CVS, it would have been totally impractical. Not CVS, but Chilmark Shopping Center. It would have been totally impractical to do it, so we were waiting for them to get all their heavy equipment finished, and we also had a small contribution from the developer there as well that helped make that possible. So that's really a wonderful thing to get that done for the gateway into the village of Ossining. Just a reference, everyone knows with respect to downtown redevelopment that the village initiated a pilot program with respect to Spring Street two-way. And from my perspective, it's a huge success. I think it just opens up that whole business corridor. We're going to let it go until the spring, and we're hoping that people will submit comments to the trustees or to the managers so that we can have that when we go to look at it for a permanent installation in the spring, hopefully. The Kilbrook sanitary sewer project you heard about this evening, an update from our village engineer. The double arch inspection and the bridge work will be the next step, and Paul will be coming back to discuss that as well. We have the upcoming reservoir and dam reconstruction at the Indian Brook water treatment plant. As we know that this project has been delayed. We have put a grant application to FEMA, and we're very hopeful that we're going to get some funding from them, which will help pay for that project. And we anticipate bidding this project before the end of the year for construction next year. I'm happy to say that the Pleasantville Road pump station generator project has been completed, and you see the temporary generator has been removed finally.
Very good.
So, and that's sort of the update on those items.
Excellent.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
If I can just go to make a couple of comments on some of the things that we've been working on in the village manager's office under the village manager's report. Over the month of September, we've had several meetings with representatives of the town of Ossining and together with the village administrators in furtherance of the ongoing discussions with the town on the village providing police services to the town outside villages, as well as we've been negotiating terms on the recreation IMA, whereby the town and the village cooperate on receiving rec services and programming. I'm happy to say we've made considerable progress on both fronts. As we know, the town has designated the village of Ossining as the preferred candidate to negotiate terms of police services, and substantial progress has been made on the rec IMA as well. Both items are currently before the Board of Trustees for final terms and conditions, and we'll actually be speaking about them this evening in executive session. I've had several meetings with residential and commercial property owners with respect to their properties. I recently met with the representatives of Independent Hose with respect to the renewal of the village lease for part of its firehouse, and also to discuss possible energy projects that would provide relief from energy costs and provide a platform for a village partnership, ultimately saving the village money since the village covers most energy costs and utilities at the firehouse. We met recently as well with the steamer company, fire company, with respect to their house on Main Street, and we've agreed on the terms of the extension of the lease for that property for an additional 2 years. Recently, I met with a potential developer of downtown properties with the director of downtown development and legal counsel on prospective redevelopment. We will await additional word from them in terms of a more sophisticated statement of intent so that we can bring them back to the board for the next steps if they so desire.
Thank you.
We've had, as you know, we've had a number of personnel items that I've been working on with the Director of Personnel, as well as the several appropriate department heads. And also, we've had meetings with outside Labor Council, who will also join us later this evening.
Good.
We met with the Council and Director of Code Enforcement with respect to housing and occupancy laws, and amongst which is the landlord registration law that you are talking about this evening, and we'll be reviewing again on Wednesday. We met with our medical insurance administrator on possible alternatives to the current medical coverage for employees. We've examined possible cost savings and the ramifications to the village and its personnel, and we will be speaking about that further and seeking to have questions answered, and at some point, hopefully bring it back to the Board of Trustees. As I stated, we attended a seminar at Pace University on Solarize Westchester, a solar initiative to identify communities interested in encouraging solar energy and installations among residences and businesses. We attended the September meeting, several of us attended the September meeting of Westchester Municipal Official Association, featuring representatives of the Regional Grant Committee of the State of New York, in order to examine possibilities for grants for the village. Also attended a presentation of NYSERDA, which was sponsored here by the Office of the Downtown Manager, which explored energy options and availabilities for upgrades, including funding opportunities for specific energy improvements. I've recently continued to investigate additional parking options for the downtown, most recently today with the village engineer and the assistant manager. We are continuing to meet with legal staff on miscellaneous legal and court matters, meeting with department heads on pending matters affecting their departments, and chairing twice monthly staff meetings, as well as accompanying the managers on a recent retreat, which was very successful. And also, last but not least, just getting ready to enter the 2015 budget process. With all the departments to submit their budget requests by this week, I intend to sit down with the treasurer and assistant treasurer this week preliminarily to begin the discussion. So,
Can I recommend that you
Thank
take
you.
a very deep breath before you do anything else?
Yes,
That's true for all of us.
yes,
so that's really it for me.
that's great.
Good,
So-
thank you.
Let's-
If I can ask for a resolution to
A
move
motion to
to
move to-
legislative
yes.
session, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This ends the work session, and we're going now into a full legislative session. So,
You don't have to leave, it's
you
not a
don't,
secret.
no, this is not a,
Don't
this is
go.
not an executive session.
This is the
It's a
good part.
legislative session.
Don't go.
We're passing
We'll be
resolutions.
singing later.
Not yet.
No, the next element will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I think we'll skip the pledge.
Yes,
Go,
sir.
baby, go.
Trustee DeRio,
I'm here.
Trustee Garrity,
Present.
Trustee Kazada,
Present.
Mayor Hanauer.
Here. Tom, you're right? Yeah, we got 8 minutes. Okay.
Come on, come on, come on.
Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board on resolutions this evening? So we'll move into our resolution. Resolution A, authorization for the village to accept payment and satisfaction of foreclosed tax liens on properties sold at
Auction.
auction. Whereas, in accordance with the Ossining Village Charter, Article 4, the village treasurer is charged with the duty of collecting real property taxes from persons named in the tax roll, and in accordance with New York State Real Property Tax Law, Section 1110. The village treasurer has the authority on or before the expiration of the applicable redemption period to accept payment of real property taxes for such persons, along with all charges authorized by law for real property subject to delinquent tax liens, and whereas the applicable redemption periods have expired for the 2007 through 2013 real property taxes which had become delinquent tax liens in 2008 through 2014 respectively, and with such redemption periods having expired, the treasurer has no authority without action by the Board of Trustees to accept further payment, and whereas pursuant to a judgment of foreclosure entered by the Supreme Court of the State of New York, Westchester County, for unpaid real property taxes in accordance with the in rem enforcement statutes of Article 9 of the Real Property Tax Law, the following public advertising: the Town of Austin conducted a public auction of various foreclosed properties at 16 Croton Avenue at 1:00 p.m. on August 13, 2014. And whereas the Town Board of the Town of Ossining has voted at a regular meeting of the Town Board on September 23, 2014, to accept the high bids made at said auction on 3 such parcels, to wit, Section 97.15, Block 2, Lot 4, Section 97.15, Block 2, Lot 5, and Section 97.11, Block 1, Lot 84, which will result in a sales price less than the total amount of unpaid tax liens, accrued penalties and interest, and other associated costs. And whereas the Village of Ossining is the holder of certain liens for real property taxes on such parcels which have not heretofore been redeemed, withdrawn, or served, has appeared in the aforesaid in rem proceedings and interposed an answer with reference to the liens held by it, and has incurred various expenses in connection with the said proceedings and said parcels. And whereas the Village of Ossining of the town and the Town of Ossining have heretofore entered into agreements and or followed a consistent course of conduct with regard to the equitable disposition of proceeds from the sale of real property and public auction under the conditions and circumstances enumerated above. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees hereby authorizes and directs the treasurer to accept from the Town of Ossining, consistent with the past practice and course of conduct, as well as statutory authority, the calculated and apportioned payments to settle in full satisfaction of the total, including any interest, penalties, and other charges, the real property taxes for properties having the tax identification numbers as Section 97.15, Block 2, Lot 4, Section 97.15, Block 2, Lot 5, and Section 97.11, Block 1, Lot 4. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter B, Housing Section 8 5-year Plan. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the Village of Ossining Section 8 Housing Program 5-year Plan effective January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2019 as presented and on file in the Section 8 office and the office of the Village Clerk. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Entertain a motion to adjourn into.
I have a question.
Sure.
We have another property. Do we not have to deal with that as well?
3 properties are listed in the single resolution.
That's all right.
All right.
That's what the,
The two of them, the two
Motion
together.
to adjourn,
Presley.
so moved. Yes, to executive session,
for the purpose of
all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so I moved it, somebody seconded it.
Second.
for specific people.
Yes,
And legal advice.
so, say all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That ends the televised portion of this evening's agenda. Join us next week at the regular legislative session on Wednesday. It's this week, actually, on Wednesday, and then next week for another work session next Wednesday. So have a good week, and until Wednesday, we'll see you Wednesday.